You mentioned all the changes specifically at the coordinator positions, but let's talk about personnel. 15 players coming in. We'll start there, including the new quarterback, John Mateer. So where did Oklahoma get better in this offseason?
I think they got better at quarterback. Look, they had high hopes for Jackson Arnold. He was obviously a five-star prospect coming in. He was the heir apparent for Dylan Gabriel after he left, and they felt really good about him, and it just didn't materialize. And part of that was because Brent Venables made a poor hire at offensive coordinator Seth Luttrell and had to fire him. Basically midway through the season. But after bringing in Ben Arbuckle as a new offensive coordinator, to be able to land John Mateer, who was one of the best quarterbacks and certainly one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country last season, to kind of have that pairing of quarterback and offensive coordinator in hopes of turning things around on offense, I think that is probably their without a doubt their biggest hit in the portal, and what they're banking on being their biggest hit. But there's a lot of other pieces that they brought in that they're going to be relying on, especially on offense. They had to completely make over the wide receiver room just about. They had 5-6 guys depart. They brought in 4 wide receivers, and they're bringing a couple guys back. But you're counting on a couple guys who are like FCS All-Americans, whether it's Keontae Lewis, Giovanni Gibson. You're bringing in a guy with SEC experience in Isaiah Satania, and another P4 type player in Josiah Martin from Cal. But you have a lot of holes that you need to fill, because this offensive struggles last year weren't just on the play of Jackson Arnold and Mike Hawkins Jr. Like, there were a lot of issues with that offense that they're trying to fix this year.
Yeah, one of those issues that Bud noted was the offensive line and how they kind of miscalculated the players that they brought in. You add a Michael Fasusi. I mean, overall, how do you think this rebuilt offensive line will perform in 25?
Yeah, you kind of have to hope that a lot of these guys take a step forward. You're bringing back Troy Everett at center, who missed the start of last season, but then took over and kind of brought some stability to the line. The left side of the line, they had 2 guys who were redshirt freshmen last year who really improved over the back half of the season in Heath Ozida and Logan Howland, and you're banking on those guys to continue in their development, because they can be SEC caliber, quality players in this league. The right side, I think there's a little bit more question, even though you're bringing back Fabechi Wewu, who started every game at right guard and played more snaps along the offensive line than anybody there last season. But then you're bringing in Derek Simmons, a transfer from Western Carolina, who you're probably going to plug in at right tackle, because you're losing 2-3 guys there between Michael Tarquin and Spencer Brown. And you need this line to really take a step forward, and you're banking a lot on Bill Bedenbaugh's reputation and his ability to develop guys. Certainly having a few of these guys that are in their 3rd year in the system, you're hoping that they're able to take that next step, while guys like Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje kind of come along and develop behind them in this 2025 class that they feel really strong about.
All right, so the transfer portal giveth and it taketh away. And man, it took away a lot from Oklahoma. 26 outgoing transfers. Where will they feel the effects of those losses the most?
Yeah, part of it is the offense. Obviously, like, you're losing the Jackson Arnold. You're remaking your entire quarterback room, essentially. Only really bringing back Michael Hawkins, and John Mateer is going to be starting there. But you look at the wide receiver position and just tight end too. I know a lot of these guys were injured last year and missed all or most of the season, but Nick Anderson was a guy who caught 10 touchdowns in 2023, and when healthy, he can be an All-American type receiver. Jalil Farouk was one of their top receivers for the last 3 years, and he's off to Maryland now. Andrel Anthony, former transfer from Michigan, he was their leading receiver through the first half of 2023 before he tore up his ACL and then missed basically all of this last season too. Brendan Thompson was one of their top receivers this past season, so was J.J. Hester. And you're replacing all those guys and basically bringing in a fresh slate of players. You're only really bringing back Deion Burks, who transferred in from Purdue but missed most of last season, and then Jaden Gibson, who kind of had a mini breakout in 2023 but tore his patellar tendon in fall camp last season and missed the entire year. So it's hard to say that you're really going to miss all these receivers when nobody was really healthy last season. But a lot of these guys, when they were healthy before, they showed they can be productive, and you have to replace that.
You've been missing those receivers all fall, really. So what's the difference? That's a good point there. As you look at this schedule, you talk to fans, you generally just spend time around this program. What are expectations for this upcoming season?
Yeah, look, again, they're facing one of the toughest schedules in college football. That non-conference game against Michigan looms large too early in the season, but after back, two of the last three seasons, being below 500, winning just 6 games in the regular season, I think you need to look at this as you need to win at least 8 games to feel good about the direction of this program right now. Even with the schedule as tough as it is, you're going to have to win some tough games in the SEC to be competitive and show that this program is heading in the right direction under Brent Venables.
All right, you laid it out for us. A lot of pressure on Brent Venables and a tough schedule if he's going to prove the doubters wrong. Tom Green, thank you so much for being here. You can check out more of his work at SoonersIllustrated.com. Keep it locked in for everything Oklahoma. It could be a make or break season for the Sooners and their head coach. So check it all out at SoonersIllustrated.com. All right, so Smoke is so patiently waiting and sitting here and listening to that great conversation, gathering all of his thoughts, because Tom makes a lot of great points. But when you look at this Sooners team as a whole, and if we can pop up the schedule again just so you can get another look at what they're facing this year, because it's a lot of pressure and a lot of tough competition. What is your prediction for Oklahoma this season?
They'll win 6 games max.
Max?
Yeah, that's a tough schedule.
Yeah.
And that team's not good when you talk about in terms of personnel. And again, when you start hitting the panic button, that's when your head coach starts taking over a side of the ball. When you start taking over a side of the ball, that means you lose all focus on what you are, and that's the overall leader of your program. So you're not paying that much attention to personnel. You're not paying that much attention to the kicking game, nor are you paying attention to what's happening on the offensive side. Because you have to have the heartbeat of your team. And I don't care how well you say, you know what, I can do this and that. No, you can't. None of us are that good to be able to stretch ourselves so thin in 24 hours to get the job that we want to get done and lead a A1 program, a blue blood program, back into what we want to see Oklahoma get to. And that's the college football playoffs and bring home a national championship.
What do you think about Bud's argument, though, that maybe taking him away from dealing with the offensive side of the ball could actually be a good thing and that he won't have his hands in that?
Well, the best person that we can look at is Steve Sarkisian. You go back and you watch that game that they lost. The play before the half, if you're looking at the game in totality, you'll look at your coordinator and whatever he called. If he called the press, you say, hey, hold on. No, can't call that. Just call safe defense, and let's get to the half and figure this game out again. If you're looking at the flow of the game when you're down there in the red zone at the 1-yard line, you step back as a play call and said, this team, we have the momentum. We don't need to go horizontal to get a yard. Let's go downhill. But when you're a play caller, you're trapped in your mind of calling the game against your opponent across the way. That's not your job. Your job is to sit back and have the viewpoint of your entire team to make sure that we come out of here with the W. And really, a head coach, you have 4 to 5 plays or situations that you really need to be involved in. The rest of the game, you're just allowing your coaches to do what they need to do and interject when needed.
All right. Smoke Dixon saying 6 wins max for Oklahoma. Is this somebody who spent time in a front office in the SEC and the Big Ten? He knows what he's talking about. We'll see what happens with the Sooners in 2025.